at Michigan Tech. And then outreach, which is like the fun stuff, you know, like giving away things, having parties, eating pizza, that kind of stuff. So the plan of attack for this session is to talk about the community resources that we have available at the Van Pelt and Opie Library. It's a big name. And what's accessible to people here who don't work at Tech or, you know, use the resources just that they're affiliated. We have a lot available because we like to serve the community that we live in, like all academic libraries do. Then we'll talk a little bit about finding grants. We're going to get into some like nitty-gritty, advanced searching techniques and Google tips and tricks that you can use to help unearth those grants that you've never heard of that are like hidden, because like nobody tells you about them unless they've told you. So they can be really hard to find, trust me. Then we're going to talk about finding data sources and information to help support your grant and make it more compelling and tell your story. And a little bit about finding additional background info from your grant. And that's about it. That's what I'll cover.
Can everyone hear Dory okay?
Can you hear me?
I turned our fan off
Okay.
right here.
I can use
We
my
all start
teacher
sweating.
voice.
Yeah, use that teacher voice, otherwise I can shut this off if we can handle the.
Sorry, it's
Warm it up.
particularly hard when you turn towards the computer. Maybe
Okay.
someone else can advance your slides. You can do that.
I don't have it memorized, so I will just project a bit better. It's been a whole summer since I've taught, so this is, you guys are gonna get the like easing back into it version of Dory. So community resources at the library. We are definitely here to serve more than just the faculty, staff, and students at the library. Like, we love all of you guys, whoever you are. And so the biggest thing that we have is community members are eligible like within like the surrounding 3 counties, like so a wide range of community members are eligible for what we call courtesy borrower cards. These give you access to kind of typical library resources, the same types that you would have at a public library, like interlibrary loan and stuff. So if you live out of district for PLDL, we can help you out and be a resource for that. And beyond that, we also offer on-site resources. So if you come into the building, you can access all of those really super extraordinarily expensive databases that we pay for our students and staff. And you can also get dedicated help from our reference staff. There's a team of librarians. We also have a group of what we call student research consultants that are trained in front level questions so they can help with the basics and call us in when they need the like heavy lifting. We get questions about grant writing several times a month, occasionally from community members, and the students are always like, so this will be helpful for me to bring back to them and talk to them about what exactly I've talked to you guys about. So the biggest thing to remember is that the difference between the courtesy card is that you don't have remote access to any of those online databases and resources. They're all on-site access, which is kind of unfortunate, especially given the unforgiving parking people at Michigan Tech. But we do have metered lots. So and then reference services, which I already mentioned. This is reference is the question and answering part of librarianship. So we have what we call an ask us desk. We make it sound a little bit more friendly because students are scared of librarians. But this is where you can come and ask any sort of information related question you have. We do everything from directing students to the right building to in-depth work with researchers. So if you come and ask us for help, say with grant writing or any of these pieces that I'm going to touch on, we can help you search for grants. We can help you search for background information. We can help you put together these pieces that I'm talking about. We do this with walk-ups, phones, email. We have a chat that I do not have a bot for. I'm in charge of that desk. I will not get a bot. I refuse to. That's always a real person. And then for more lengthy things, so if you think that you want to sit down for more than 15 minutes or so with somebody, we have a consultation request, which I highly recommend. filling out this form that I have linked here. I'm not used to using PowerPoint. I use Google Slides, but it's a form on our website. It's really easy to find. Basically, it's you let us know ahead of time what you're working on, and a librarian will work on a time for you to sit down, and they'll be able to do some pre-research for you, so it's not all like, on the spot, like, oh, okay, arts, yeah, we do stuff with arts. What is arts again? What are humanities? So, consultations are really good for getting more nitty-gritty and in-depth information and one-on-one time over Zoom or in person with the librarian.
And we'll be sending this out, we talked about as well, after this, so you can have the slides and the reference materials, and it will also be on our website, so.
Yeah.
Don't panic.
There's a lot of linked
Yeah,
resources
there'll be a
on
lot
the
of
side,
opportunity.
and there's a lot of little details on these too that you can refer back to later. So, some tips for being a community member. The library is way less busy during the summertime and when we're on break. So if you want to hit us during Thanksgiving, Christmas break, spring break, much easier to get into the building and navigate with students. The students recklessly illegally park. So even if you try to find a metered spot, you might not. And our lot is right off of US 41, kind of right where you see that traffic light. And the building is the big one with the curved windows, and the entrance is on the opposite side of the windows. So please do visit us and consider requesting a consultation either in person or virtually if you want some more like actually nitty gritty, not like speed, fast help. Next, we're going to talk about finding grants, the biggest challenge of all. So we're gonna try some searching out. I usually do this with students, usually undergraduate and lower level graduate students. So we see how this works with community folks. So what I'm gonna want you guys to do is by yourself or with somebody else, if you came with a crew or posse, which some of you did, which is great. Think about a hypothetical grant you want to write. It can be one that you actually are thinking about wanting to do, have a project in mind, or just make something up and like use it to brainstorm these things. And think about where your project is. I think it's probably in the Keweenaw based on where we are right now. And what you want your project to accomplish, really very literally, like I want to buy 15 computers or something like that. Or I want to fund, the roller skating library for my roller derby league, which is something that we're doing right now. And very abstractly, the lofty stuff that grant reviewers tend to latch on to because they're very lofty people. I know many of them. And then what types of organizations do you think might have an interest in funding something like that? So I'll give you just a few minutes, because this is pretty top level stuff. So you can think of just a scenario that you want to use throughout the rest of
You're most closely.
Again, we have some computers if anyone needs
So
one.
which
I have
early learning center is that the ISD or St. Pierre and Paul?
St. Pierre and Paul.
St. Pierre. Okay. That helps me frame a reference.
Reference, that's the guys, yeah. So. What do you want to write your grant?
Well, I am really not here, but let's write one for a childcare expansion. Since that's what fits St. Peter and Paul, or what St. Peter and Paul needs for their.
Early learning center. That's,
Or do you want to work on Sky? If not,
it doesn't matter, we can do the early learning center, because then we both be on the same thing, like the sky, we don't have. We just need money, basically.
yeah,
Yeah, and do you need money to do?
Well,
with the community or what?
one of the things that we want to do is we want to put a sensory/meeting room back into the treehouse. So there was an office there that used to be what they call a hideaway, and it was used for breastfeeding and
Yeah.
just for families to go, and it was rarely used. Well, as our staff expanded, we used our office space. And we rented kind of Episcopal space again, so now we're back in full.
Okay.
And so we have that office available, but I need to I want it to be a place where an overstimulated child comes down. And then also for one-on-one, so like if early on is there with this individual, the child
Oh,
will take place
well.
to play, my mom and the staff are sitting down.
So I'm gonna.
So is that-
That's the sponsorship, I know,
Yeah.
sorry.
Back where Gail's at.
Yeah. Underwater. It was fine. We still.
Yeah, it's not a huge role.
Okay.
But that would be my goal, would be to make that. So sensory stuff and then the table.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, you did it?
Small table so that you. can come with the camera. Make sense?
We're gonna bring it
Yeah.
back to the front. Okay, so
Maybe we have time to get there.
looking at our next bit of slides, these are some really good things that I think you should remember. These are like the advice that I get personally when I'm thinking about grant writing. I've won several for libraries, specifically. Think about local agencies first, because they are more likely to award you an actual grant. I won one from Google, that's highly competitive, and usually national. Local ones, I've gotten so many more from Michigan or UP centric ones. Think about the mission alignment. A lot of times a UP organization has a dedication towards the UP. They want to make life better for all of us up here. And the grants are specifically designed to service the kind of people who live and work and play up here. So you also will probably hear about the word of mouth. Linda has a slide in here that has a list of a bunch of them. That I think is the very next one.
The next one, so I'll talk
Go
about
ahead.
that, if you don't mind. So, yeah, just, today we're really gonna take kind of a broad search, I guess you could say, looking very broadly, even nationally, just getting online. But, as Dory said, that it's a good thing if you can to start locally and always kind of be aware of the grantors that you have in your community, and, be aware of their calendar, for their RFPs or requests for proposals. So, these are a few of the grantors and other agencies to be aware of. Of course, the Community Foundation, Copper Shores Health Foundation. I know perhaps you're not all health-related organizations, but they really look at that in quite broad terms. So even if they might have an RFP out there that doesn't exactly fit your organization or your project that you're looking for funding for, keep them on your radar anyway, make that connection.
Linda, can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
Just for the people who are new, an RFP, sometimes we use language in, any sector, and it's like, there's all this jargon, you don't really know what it means. RFP is a request for proposal, so basically it's just the grant that is announced out. So for those who are brand new, I just wanted to make sure we.
Thank you for
cut that out.
clarifying that, yeah. And oftentimes, organizations will put out these requests for proposals but some organizations might not. For instance, service clubs that I mentioned on there, your Rotaries or Kiwanis. They often they don't always have like the formal request for proposals. It might be that you just need to connect with someone in the group and ask them what their process is. And they might just say, no, just come and speak to us, at a meeting, or they might say, just a one-page letter of request. But make those connections if you haven't already. This isn't quite as local, but it's still kind of considered that way. It's more regional, the Superior Health Foundation as well, that is a grantor that covers the entire Upper Peninsula. And then be aware also of corporations that have local stores, like Walmart, like Family, I put Family Dollar, but I think I really meant Dollar General. Probably Family Dollar does too, but I know Dollar General. They do put out requests for proposals for for different things, that are particularly community minded and also, youth serving. So, you know, get on their websites and look, but also try to make that local connection. But you don't have polls here, do you? Okay.
Those would probably be the most consistent. And then I think many of you have seen, especially for things like sponsorships, some of our banks have foundations that will do granting or gifting. So, and some of our larger employers will also do some of those things. So it may not be a formal grant, but there are some opportunities because they want to serve the community that they might have some different funds that might be available. So just
Yep.
kind of in that same bucket.
And then I listed some state agencies and associations to be aware of. For arts organization, the Michigan Arts and Cultural Affairs. They have, I think it's biannual, like twice a year, requests for proposals. The Michigan Community Service Commission is like the state agency on volunteerism and like national service. They often have smaller grants like around national days of service, like MLK Day, 9/11 Day of Service, but sometimes they have very large grants that come through either the state government or the federal government that's funneled down through the state. For instance, they recently had grants that were up to, I believe, $2 million for community centers. So, you know, just something to have on your radar and to keep track of. The Michigan After School Partnership is not an actual state agency, but they work throughout the state. And I know right now they have out of school time grants that are out there. In the Michigan Nonprofit Association, if you are part of a nonprofit, that is an excellent association to be associated with. At the very least, get their newsletter that comes out. I'm not sure if they do it every 2 weeks or monthly, but you know, you can do that for free, but you can also become a member with them. And there's another slide that talks a little bit more about one particular benefit that we'll talk about here in a little bit. And also Grow and Lead, our organization. We have a monthly newsletter. You can get in touch with us. We will, you know, put you on our mailing list. And you think about becoming a member with us too. It's very cost effective. Starts at $50, and we take care of our members and we look for grants, and we, you know, when we see something that we think an organization might be a good match, we'll let you know about it. But yeah, the more the newsletters and that sort of thing that you kind of tap into just to keep abreast of what's going on around grants is a good thing. Moving on.
So those are some more local centric organizations you can look at. And what we're gonna do is try to search for some grants. So I've got 2 websites up here that you can visit. One is called grantgopher.com, the other is grants.gov. Grant Gopher is a paid service. They do have a limited free search, so you can search and they'll show you like the top 5 results of their search. So you can go ahead and try to think of a few things like keywords. Think of what you would use to describe or try to find a grant related to your work, your project, and plug it into one of these 2 sites. If you're going on grants.gov, be prepared for like a long list of returned options. That's a recurring theme among .gov sites. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And try to think of keeping them really brief and be ready to skim a lot of results. And if your word doesn't work, just try a different one. Synonyms are like your friend when you're searching.
I mean, I know sensory is way up against autism, but to get the grants.
What's neurodiversity?
Yeah.
So we get.
So the
And
grant
so
goes
it's
for
Sky,
we
Sky
try
searches just to make
Mhm.
it site.
You can get free trial searches
No.
on Grant Gopher.
So banks and the legislation,
They'll give you a
they
few
have
searches
to
without
put
an account,
X
and then you have to
numbers
make an account,
into
but you can still
poverty or
get
financial education.
some free access.
Yeah, Eli from Superior Health, Superior National, Eli may not even be there anymore. It's been years since I've talked to him.
Okay.
He told me about this back 10 years ago. Anyway, in part of their national regulations, they have to reinvest so much.
Oh.
But
Is
Sky
it
would be in
a good thing to
particularly
put the
good
county
fit, right?
in,
Because you
or will that narrow
poverty.
things?
I always would do both
So,
searches.
I don't know if you know.
So
bankers.
Linda just asked if it was a good idea to narrow your location down to like your county specific.
But even if they were.
I recommend
for
doing
years,
multiple searches. I always tell students searching is iterative, it builds upon itself. You're
Yeah,
never gonna
so you
find
might
what
be
you
able
want with just
to,
one
you know,
search.
reach out to her and ask
I mean,
about the
that's
details
really
of that,
a
so you can use the right
lot
language.
Doing, because we're used to a lot of basic,
Yeah.
low key
Just
Googling,
go
like.
ask and ask about the right
Googling for
language to
sites that
use.
we already know.
So that,
Okay, thank you for that.
yeah,
Put the money into, the treehouse to begin with.
it was community donations, so there was a whole bunch of different donors, but some of the bigger ones were the hospitals and
So,
the ICU,
show of hands, from what you've done so far.
but there's
Feels frustrating
every little
so far.
post in there has a name.
Yeah.
Oh.
About
So I do have a list of those donors.
I thought
My
it
plan for
would be-
this is
So
to
I'll be
write
able to ease a
a
little bit for you guys.
application to either Rotary or to Huron Community Foundation. They've both said to reach out.
Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure, it's too.
Yeah, County Shores, I want to.
Up here I have, kind of like a
I wanna hit the
surprise
perfect spot.
source for you
I
guys.
have an education.
We're gonna-
classroom to do.
If you wanna pull back and, abandon your searches for a second, go back and forth quite a bit and don't be, ashamed if you don't complete a full exercise that I do with you. These will all be available besides. So Michigan Tech, research office, not the library, the research office pays for a grant service called Grant Forward. When Linda first got in contact with me, I was like, yeah, that's not one of the library's things, so it's not gonna be available for the community to use at all. And then we did some testing at the library and some practice searching, and we figured out that from our, computer lab, computers that are in the computer labs, we have like 50 computer labs in our building. And using the anonymous login that we do have there, you can pretend essentially that you're working for Michigan Tech. And you can go ahead and use Grant Forward. It is a paid subscription site. It's pretty fancy, pretty upscale. It's meant for our researchers to find research grants like from the NSF to find, like molecular, like biology stuff. But we did searches on there and all of the kind of public works, humanities types of things were coming up as well. So if you want to come in, visit us on site, this is only something you can do on site. You can access this. Don't go around telling your friends, because if the research office finds out that I'm doing this, I don't know how happy they'll be. But if you come in, we're gonna help you do it. So this is a source available only at Michigan Tech. And if you do have Michigan Tech affiliation, you say you work there, you should be able to log in with your Michigan Tech account and actually access it from anywhere. So I think like probably a quarter of you have some sort of login, either yours or your spouse's or something. You can get on there, but. So this means, yeah, you can access it. This is great. I told them, I was like, we don't subscribe to anything at the library for grants, but we do. We have Grant Forward that you can use. So I'm gonna let Linda talk about this next slide.
So Grant, actually, why don't we go to the next one after that, I'll come back. Grant Station is a site that you can go to, and feel free to go to it right now if you want. It is also by subscription, but it's on sale right now, and you can also access it even more cheaply. I guess I will go back to that other one. As a member of the Michigan Nonprofit Association. So it usually is like $700 to subscribe to. But there's a summer sale going on right now. I'm not sure for how long, but it's $179 for a year or $249 for 2 years. So you can access everything they have. But also, if you become a member of the Michigan Nonprofit Association, that's a free benefit. It's a benefit of being a member. So for organizations that are up to $100,000, it's $80 a year. And you might not want to subscribe for more than a year. That may be enough. But it's a good deal. Even up to 250,000, it's 160, and then it goes up as your annual budget goes up. But what Grant Station is, it has the searchable database, so you can, again, put in your keywords and such. But not only will grants come up, but grantors, so it has profiles of different foundations. Like, is Nate, did you say? Yeah, that you were looking for family foundations. You can type in their Michigan, put in Michigan, of course, and I think you could probably put in the county as well and look for family foundations.
List.
There may be, but you know, some are statewide too, and
Some are topic too, so certain families or private foundations have, so it might be a way to search through that access point.
yeah. But it is a pretty helpful site. You can save and organize the profiles that you're interested in. And you can match them to like a certain project that you're trying to get funding to or for. So if you have multiple projects going on, it depends on how much you're into development. But it also has tools for building your grant strategy, tutorials, forms, processes. And I thought this was really helpful, that they have grant proposal samples, that are actual grants that have been, that have been successful. So if you're new to grants, I think this is a really, really good thing. And I'm not trying to sell you on M&A membership particularly, but that's probably the best deal you're gonna get. And for $80, I say, go for it for a year, and plus you get the other benefits of being associated with M&A, the Michigan Nonprofit Association. There are other programs. Yep.
I have seen lots of subscription services, Grant Watch being one. Month. I mean, do you all have any experience or selection process about how to decide which subscription to go to besides Grant Station? Like, is there any external objective analysis about who gives out the most money and what's the success rate or anything like that?
I don't have that. But I do trust Michigan Nonprofit Association to have, vetted it to make sure that it is a good benefit, or they wouldn't be using it. But, any of these are probably good, but like some of us have said here, you're casting a wide net, so you might get lots of profiles or requests for proposals that show up, they may or may not be a good match for you. So, you know, that's the key, is to sort through them and you know, look for ones that are the best matches. And it'll narrow things down pretty quickly.
Yeah, I have some insight into this, because we buy and have to select through like crazy amounts of subscription services for information at the library. And grants are one area that companies have really glommed onto, specifically because of how hard they are to find. And there's money in it, so they want to make money. So Grant Station, Grant Forward, Grant Gopher, all of these organizations, they're like in this for the money, right? Because grants.gov is the worst. It's not fun to use, and then information is difficult to find. So my suggestion is, if you're considering purchasing access for one of these sites through your organization, look and see what other organizations subscribe to. Try to see if, you know, like, sort of go on Reddit and see if there's some people who are like, yeah, this one really worked for us. It was really easy to use. Or test around, play with either Grant Station or Grants Forward, which you can get access to a little bit cheaper through tech or nonprofits association, and see how those feel. And that can give you a bit of a help. I would not pay for anything that is really, really expensive, and I would not pay for anything that seems kind of new or unknown, because there's lots of sites out there promising more than they can deliver.
Yeah, definitely don't pay $699 a year, you know.
We get like these companies like contact us all the time and say, for just this much money, you could put your grants on this national website. I think, well, there's no point to that, because I'm serving this smaller, but so those solicitations are happening all the time. So I think those are very valid points, that like it is a business, and, you know, finding, but I do think, to your earlier point, knowing what entities do things and signing up for those emails, you know, seeing what types of grants, and then signing up for their newsletters or email lists or whatever, is probably extremely streamlined way versus paying for expensive subscriptions. So.
Yeah, and I should also say too, with Grant Station in particular, they have a weekly kind of a summary of grant proposals that are out there right now, national, regional grants, and that's free. You can sign up for that for free. And it's good, you know, they usually have like a dozen RFPs on there, and sometimes you see one that you haven't seen before. And again, you know, at Grow and Lead, we monitor that all the time and try to help out the organizations that we work with. And when we see something, we'll let you know.
So I'm going to talk about using advanced Google techniques for grant searching. And these techniques, I would be repeating these for every single category that I'm going to talk about here. So if I don't go in depth and have you do activities with some of these, know that they're completely applicable to every single thing I'm talking about. So how many of you here use Google? If somebody leaves their hand down, I'm gonna be like, where are you from? Who are you? Are you just not taking for you? Ask Jeeves. Ask Jeeves. So Google is a site that we're all like very familiar with using. Sometimes I use Google to go to the MTU library website instead of typing in the URL. That's how used to Google a lot of people are. But a lot of people don't know that they have some really cool, actually advanced features. That you just see that search bar, and they don't have drop downs like you would see on a library site or on a even clothing website, or they have options on the side to narrow things down. So some of the really, really useful ones, the most useful one specifically, is the way these work is they're kind of limiting factors to put in. So you type in a command and then a colon and what you want. So the biggest one I have on here is the site limiter. So this helps you search for sites either on a specific domain, like .org I have up here. So you can search through only .org websites, you can search through only .gov websites, .edu websites, search those specifically. Those are the three that I talk about the most with students. And you can also search a whole URL. So if you're talking about a website that's just giant, like a university's website, or like Walmart's website, you can search site:walmart.com and then grants. So that you can search specifically on that website and use Google's really powerful tools instead of fumbling around, because you probably never find it if you just go straight to like with mtu.edu, you're never going to find anything just clicking around besides the application page. So the way that this should look successfully once you've done it is, you probably can't see this very well, but once I typed in this site and then the colon, the little search turned kind of blue. It bolded itself and turned blue, and that's how you know that it's recognized that you're putting in a command and that it works. So I can't even see it from here, but you should be seeing it on your computers. And that's a helpful little tidbit. So below that, I have the next thing. Putting parentheses around a group of keywords. So doing this is making sure that those words are found in the order you're putting them in. Google's like crazy powerful and it's always thinking for you. Like you'll notice you type things into Google and they're like, did you actually mean to search for this thing that I'm pretty sure you meant instead? You're like, no, I did not mean that. Where they're like, show you a long list of things and they've left out the words you're searching for. So parentheses help you search for the words in the correct order. This is helpful when you're doing a phrase like grant application specifically, or looking at organizations, or if you're looking at like, so I mentioned I was on the roller derby team, so like if I put in roller derby, it would look for that as a single thing instead of separating those words out. Quotes, and this is the opposite from academic stuff. So if you go try to do this on one of our things, like what is going on? Quotes are what you tell Google, and you might have seen this when you Google, then they were like, we're going to leave that word out, and you click the link below and it says, include that word, please. Quotes is the automatic, like, actually include this word. Don't try to go around what I'm asking you to do. Please search for this word. So the sample up here that I've got, a complex search is site:.com, to search .com sites, Michigan Rural Libraries, grant funded. So that is a site that search that I would do on Google to look for other rural libraries and grant funded projects to pull out those grantor names and stuff.
What do the quotation marks do?
Those are the quotation marks that are to say, include these words, or I'm gonna break up with you, Google. The parentheses are, put it in this order, please. So. These ones are also helpful. I think these are really more helpful if you're really getting into it. So these are like two, there's like in title and in text. So these focus on trying to find words that are actually located on the page that Google is pulling up for you. So all in title means that the title of that page is going to have those words. So if you're asking for it to look for something where, you know, public libraries is in the title, that means it's going to be probably the most prominent thing on that page. In text means it's going to be actually talked about on that page and not somewhere else in that website. And you're like, where was this even on this page? Why did you bring this up for me at all, Google? So those are useful if you're really getting into it. For these, I tend to combine them and go in depth. So examples I have here, I've got in text, so funding or grant. So that is, the or is to tell you, you can look for either of these, and that's fine because both of those kind of are synonyms, mean the same thing. And then entitled veterans, because I'm looking for grants to fund a veteran related project. So those are just examples of how you could use these to try to like really narrow your focus in, because Google is always trying to think for you. And I don't think it's usually right, unless I'm going to a huge, well-known website's main page. Especially now, it's gotten worse. So, last one that I think is really valuable is the remove function. So if I was teaching you a library set of things, that would be, I would be typing in the word not. And this is for when things are really flooding your search results, and you're like, this is not what I want. I use COVID as the example for this a lot, because for a long time, COVID was like the only thing that anybody talked about. It's in all the news, it's on all the websites, it's in all the research. I did searches, everything was related to COVID, and I don't want this. So if you've got something that's related to your topic, but it's not your topic, you can put a minus sign before it, just that little minus sign, and you take that word out of your searches to try to narrow you down and get you more to what you're actually looking for, not COVID. Because I use it for not COVID a lot. I also use not patents a lot, because I get a lot of patents in the type of work I do. I don't always want them. So I mentioned this on the previous slide. Use or to try to catch synonyms, or just do different searches using both versions of that word, because some of these searches are really, really direct. And if you write the wrong word, it's gonna pull up something different just because your brain thinks differently. This is a whole list of all of these ones that I talked about. That way you can come back to this and be like, oh, that's what she was talking about, and use them and strategize with them. So,
Dory, have you been doing any messing around with any AI searches?
yes, I do a lot of messing around with AI searches. Not that I want to, I have to. Google's AI search stuff is the worst.
Oh,
I highly disrecommend that.
Okay,
It's awful.
good to know.
And some of my favorites are hard to remember off the top of my head because it's late in the day. But they're that's not what I use for searching for information, obviously. It just
What
makes
about
stuff
for
up.
writing proposals? People tend to use that.
That is something that I think, you know, we talk a lot about the ethics of information at the library and what you can and can't do. I think use your own discretion when you're doing that, but it's very helpful for summarize this really wordy
Yes.
thing that I wrote
Yep.
specifically. That's the thing I use it for most, or maybe reword this, give me different examples,
Right.
or try to tell me about this in a different way, because that can help you get out of your, I think about this in a rule you for way, and that's the only way I think about it, right? So those are useful for that. The search ones, a lot of them are expensive and paid for right now. I don't think they're useful for what you guys are gonna do. But if you wanna get into it, you can come to the library and ask me questions. So the next category that I wanna talk about is data sources. So for this, we're talking about information to help support your problem, because grants are usually problem solution focused. And you want to think about ways to make your problem more compelling than other folks with very similar ideas and very similar stories in maybe different places. And help tell the story of your community, what makes you guys special, unique, worthy, and needing of this funding. And this stuff will be really, really important for later strategy with grant writing. So think about what types of data you might want and what would be valuable for demonstrating why you're writing your grant. I'd say write down at least 2 things. We're a little bit shorter on time. I'm gonna say, go ahead and do that really quickly in your head. Don't talk about it. Because you guys are a chatty bunch.
Welcome
Hard to
to
bring back.
community work. It's a good thing.
It is.
So think about things like, you know, economic data, how much household income is there? Those are things that I've used very, very successfully for myself, writing grants in the Upper Peninsula. How remote are you? How much broadband access is there where you are? How needy is your community? We're very needy, so it's usually a really easy case to make. So the examples I have here are demographics to demonstrate your need. The people served and affected by the proposed project that you're working on. What kind of folks are we talking about? The different community and organizational strengths of your specific organization, maybe what makes you guys special compared to other similar groups in the area, in the state. And then what are current and effective services in the area? Demonstrate that this has worked before, so this should work here. Or demonstrate things that you've done before, and this worked to this extent. So there are many, 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 many sources of data out there in the world. I've got a list here of subscription database sources. These are ones at the library that we have, so if you came in, you could use. Statista is focused on marketing data and demographic data. It pulls from all sorts of different organizations out there. It's very simple to use. I could sit like a high schooler in front of it and they could use it. So if you're not very confident in your searching abilities, this is a really great tool to come in and check out. That's very simple. I've got Expert, which has got social and political data. I've got IBIS World Reports. I don't think any of you mentioned something where I think market data would be helpful to you, but we've got all that kind of data. And these are all on campus only with a picture of our campus search tool. Now here's some more non-subscription ones, free ones for you. So data.census.gov. Has anybody ever tried to look up anything on the census website? Did you cry while you were doing it?
It's overwhelming.
It's awful. It's truly awful. I am a government information expert. That's my like niche field that I study, I guess you could say. And census.gov website makes us all want to die inside. It's just truly awful. They're working on a new one, so hopefully that will come out soon. The US government is the biggest publisher of information in the world, in the whole entire world. But because it's funded with public dollars, that means it's funded with public dollars, it's limited, right? Versus those paid sources that are paid for in like thousands of millions of dollars a month to be more user friendly. So on here, I've got a link to one that is really truly fantastic. Took me a while to dig this one up because we lost our census database recently. This is called Census Reporter. I'm gonna actually click it because this one I think is truly so valuable that
Yeah, I don't see problems.
the links don't work. Let's say. So this site is a really nice, simple site to find, well, it extracts census data in an easy way to find. So I'm gonna do really quick. Cohen County, Michigan. I'm gonna pull it up. And it brings up a lot of these basic facts from the census. And this is actually pulled from the American Community Survey, which they do more frequently than the census. It's like every 2 years instead of every 10. So it's more recent and relevant, which is helpful. And it gives you a lot of these like the income of the area, what's the demographics of the area, you know, who are you serving, who's here, who's working, where are they working, what type of industry are they working in. And it gives you kind of the overview of a lot of these things you can go through. And it does let you narrow in and try to look for specific things. So if you're looking for, you know, unemployment rate, annual household income, I usually gravitate towards those kinds of things because those are really convincing statistics and often sad statistics. But they're helpful for demonstrating need. And this site will help you find them. Census.gov will not. You will not. I will spend hours trying to find the population of Fulton County on there, and I won't.
So I'm sorry, is Census Reporter, is it still a government site or is it like a private?
This is a nonprofit organization that does this. It's not a government site, but they pull directly from government sites. These are folks that are like real into that stuff. And so they've all been frustrated enough with the census site to make this. And it is completely free, fully free. It's probably one of the best free resources I know of in existence, to be honest. And I like just highly recommend it. I'm sorry, that's my slide. You don't need that. So on here, I also have the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, all of the US statistical agencies that collect these things. There's 13 agencies. We've got like crime data, like the Bureau for Law Enforcement Service Statistics. So if you're like doing something related to victim services, for example, you can pull crime rates from your area on these sites. A lot of these sites are nicer than the census site, which is why I specifically called that one out and gave you an alternative. But think about if there's a federal agency or a state agency, the state also has sites for their data that is related to your area. So think of like housing and development, if you're doing that. Think about humanities, there's humanities, like Michigan Humanities, for example, they fund a lot of stuff up here. These sites often have data on them that you can pull and use. So try to think of in your head, federal bodies that are related to what you do. Most statistics come from the government, unless you're talking about stuff that's going to make somebody money, which a lot of statistics just will. So that's why they get them from the government. So that was a sample that I was going to do. There are a lot of a lot of data sources on the website. Here's a few of the really broad ones that are not a comprehensive list. We've got census.gov, data.gov, and then the Pew Research Center and American Trends Panel. These are bigger sites, they're bigger things. This is a slide that's left in from my class, from my students. So a lot of them write bigger style things.
Just to add for those working with kids, especially in the education field, or health and human services, they should definitely look at the kids count data. It's very user friendly and easy to read. And those with the younger set of kids, I have access to what's called Great Start data set. Only Great Start Cloudies have access to it, but I'm happy to share data. Just come sit down with me. We'll go over some of the things that are going on in our community, but that's very specific to children.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff you're going to be looking for is specific and unique to your situation beyond that big demographic data.
Yeah, just back to kids count, what I think is really helpful with that is that it's by county too.
Yeah, and so is the Great Start data set, and I can combine our 3 counties for you on that Great Start data set. So that's, yeah, but it has everything the kids count plus.
Yeah, and kids count too typically has like a UP wide data cut, which I think is really great as well. And then also, you know, the overall state, so you can kind of compare either the UP or your county to the state data, which is very helpful.
So this is the last category that I have, and I'm just going to talk about what you should be looking for and why. This is my background info slide. So what we're looking for this is similar projects to yours, either getting ideas or using them to find things that have been funded and work. Community organizations with the same or similar funders to the ones that you're looking at targeting right now, see what they're doing and how to kind of do that successfully yourself. Previous related projects, previous projects that the funder has supported. Somebody mentioned looking at grant proposals. A lot of grant sites will actually put up examples of grant proposals that they've received and fully funded. And a lot of people ignore them. I suggest looking through and seeing if you can find them. Look through those, see what the hallmarks of a successful program is. I mean, don't copy it straight up like the same program, but see what they did that made them seem so fundable and so special. Also look at the ones that failed and see what you don't want to be. And find support that your solution and funder is the best option for you. A lot of organizations really want to be best fits with who they're funding, and that your project is the best resolution to that problem. So for this, all those Google search things work the same way. So like looking for sample grant would be a really good term to use. Submitted grants, these kinds of things. Funded grants. Gonna have a lot of good keywords for you. I'm a morning person. But that's the other category that you want to be looking into, seeing what's been successful and what else you can do. And that's also a really good way to find grants, to see like news announcements, like, for example, the Portage Lake District Library was just awarded this grant from Michigan Humanities for this. And you're like, I never heard of them. Maybe I can get a grant for something similar that I'm doing. Or like, I often look at other university libraries and see where they've gotten money and see what projects that they've gotten successfully funded, so I can, you know, go apply to that later and get that money so they don't get it next year. And I get it instead. I'm coming for you, University of Michigan. You can't always win. Go, I have to take what you said.
I did remember a large new funding website in the state of Michigan. I don't know if you can pull it up really quick since you're connected. It's just mifundinghub.org. This came out of the Michigan Municipality League, and although some of it is certainly focused towards municipal entities, there's also, this is a prime site that you can actually look for a ton of different funding opportunities, like you'll see here. That I just wanted to make sure people knew about. So I'm this type of entity, I'm looking for this, and if you scroll down a little bit further on the website, you can actually look here just for your category as well. So this is just another one that I learned about recently that just came into existence and might be something to check out to see if there's anything that might connect with what you're looking for. So thank you.
Is that one for you, Robin?
Yeah. Yep. This is,
From a glance, I love this. I'll make sure this is on the slides so that
thank
there's
you.
a link for you to find. This looks great.
Wonderful.
I have not seen this before.
No.
It's very, very new. It was just rolled out this spring through the Michigan Municipality League, and they're trying to spread the word. So
Dory, do you still require your students to do a grant in your class?
So I teach the whole class, but I do come in and teach sessions in classes. So this is I call it course integrated one shot about library searching and stuff. The way that the instructors have been doing it is that you should find a real grant, write a real proposal. You don't have to submit it necessarily, but if you do, go for it.
are those students out for intern opportunities where we have
Yeah,
them run
they're-
real grants for
So should
real
we let
purposes?
know that we have
Yeah.
at least manageable, small grants. I'm thinking about the gymnastics folks, that's such a clear cut focused piece of the pie that could be manageable.
I can find out who is teaching the class this
Yeah.
fall, and I can
I would love an introduction to that person.
Let
to
you know.
connect with them.
It's been Andy
Sure.
Fitz in the past, if any of you know Andy Fitz, he's a big name in
Oh,
the
yeah.
area, and he's very kind, so I will see who's teaching it, and I'll let you
Awesome.
know, so we can try to make that.
We'd love to
connection.
give them some real world examples.
Students truly do love those
I
real world
know,
examples, having a
absolutely.
big thing that you've done isn't as impressive as saying,
I've
yeah,
got 4 on my plate that I want to write and don't have time, so. Yeah.
use those college students.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not? And so here are my main takeaways from this session. Always try multiple searches across multiple platforms to find solutions, funders, data sources, and background information for what you're doing. Like I said, searching is iterative, very true thing. Leverage the resources available to you to make a compelling case. So rather that's resources you can get through Michigan Tech, free resources online, each other, the organization here. Leverage what you've got because these folks want to help you, right? And then I do have a library guide that I made for the grant writing class, and it's online. The link won't work. So. Library. This is a good source. See, I Google everything. Michigan Tech Library Grant Writing. This is what I call a library guide. It's got a lot of that information that I just shared kind of written out, links to some of the big sites out there. tips, data sources. Usually they have a link to whatever current slides I have for that class on there as well, because I make these specifically for classes. So that I can go back to them because they're not paying attention during my session. As much as I make them search, they won't remember it, so. This is my end slide. This is my logo for my reference desk, the S desk. And my student research consultants, my handy helpers. You can visit in person, email us at reclib@mtu. You can call us. That's how Linda got me. She called and I picked up the phone. I was like, who is calling in the summer? Who is calling me right now? I got 3 calls that day. It was weird. You can also text us and chat us. All of this is during regular business hours. I don't work on weekends. Unless somebody really like bribes me with something like pancakes and bacon. But please do reach out. Love to help people, and please don't reach out around exams. I might tell you to come back later. You got anything you want to do? Announcement? Question?
If I can ask a question to the bulk knowledge in the room. You had said earlier about